Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install NFS server and NFS client in AWS EC2. We're going to install Red Hat Enterprise Linux 9 virtual machine, and we're going to see how to use NFS network file sharing to share some directories from our NFS server to our NFS client. So to get started, we're going to launch two Red 9 EC2 virtual machines in AWS. We're going to call them NFS server and NFS client. Okay, so I've already launched these two virtual machines, NFS server.lab.ut.com, NFS client.lab.ut.com. If you do not know how to launch an EC2, I encourage you to watch our video on how to launch an EC2. You can search for that video right here in our YouTube channel. So having launched these two EC2s, I've also logged into them using PuTTY to SSH into them. Again, if you don't know how to launch and SSH your EC2, I encourage you to watch the videos which we have on that. So the two servers are NFS server, which is the one with a black background, and NFS server, NFS client, the one on the blue background. I have already um, changed the host name of the NFS server and the host name of the NFS client. So if I type host name, you're going to see the host name here is NFS server.lab.ut.com, and host name here is NFS client.lab.uta.com. So next thing is that uh, we have done step 2 by logging to the servers. The next thing is that we're going to perform an update of the packages on the two servers. So we're going to run DNF update on the server. Here I'm going to do sudo dnf-y update. This will make sure that all our servers are up to date. Okay, I'm going to do that also on the client side. Sudo dnf-y update. Okay, so the servers have been patched. As you can see, they are all up to date. The next thing is that we are going to install the necessary packages. Okay, on the NFS server, I am going to install nfs-utils. So I'm going to run this command on the NFS server. This is the NFS server on the one with the black background. I'm going to run this command to install that packages. And also, okay, so it says I want to be root. So I'm going to do sudo. Okay, install those packages. And also on the client side, I'm going to install these packages as well. Two packages on the client side. So I'm going to clear my screen. I do sudo dnf install nfs-utils nfs4-acl tools. Okay, so the packages are installed on the server side, and the client side is also done installing. Next, I am going to, okay, once the installation is complete, we want to start the NFS server service, enable it to automatically start at boot time, and then verify the status. Okay, so I'm going to run this command systemctl enable dash dash now nfs dash server dot service. I'm going to run this command on both servers, both the NFS client. This is on the both NFS server and also on the NFS client. Okay. Then let me check the status. I'm going to say sudo systemctl status nfs dash server nfs dash server. Okay, you can see it is up and running. I'm going to run the same command on the NFS client side. Okay, you can see both services are running, or the services are running on both servers. Okay, so note that other services that are required for running NFS server or mounting NFS shares such as NFSD, NFS-ID mapd, RPC bind, RPC.mountd, logd, RPC.startd, RPC.rQuotaD, and RPC.ID mapd will be started automatically. So the next configuration, okay, next, the configuration files for the NFS server the configuration files are these files etc/nfs.conf. This is the main configuration file for the NFS daemon and tools, and etc/nfs-mount.conf. This is an NFS mount configuration file. Okay, so the next is to create or define the file systems to export or share on the NFS server. So for this guide, we will use the home directories of NFS user 1, NFS user 2, and /backup directories. So we're going to create these users in both servers, okay, and both server and client. Okay, password for each user should be Red Hat. So we're going to run this command to create NFS user 1 and NFS user 2 on both NFS server and NFS client. So I'm going to actually on the NFS on both servers, I'm going to switch user to root sudo su. Do the same thing here. Sudo su. So I'm going to run this command to create NFS user 1 on the client and also create NFS user 1 on the server, and also create NFS user 2 on both client and the server as well. So I'm creating two users, NFS user 1 and NFS user 2, NFS user 2, NFS user 2. So I'm creating two users here on the server and also two users on the client, which is NFS user 1 and NFS user 2, and password for both users is Red Hat. So that is done. Next, we're going to create, these are the directories we're going to export. Okay, I'm going to export the home directory of NFS user 1 and the home directory of NFS user 2, and also I'm going to export /backups. /backups directory is not created, so I'm going to use this command to create that directory /backups. Okay, and I'm creating this in the NFS server. So in the NFS server, I'm going to create this directory slash backups. Okay, and I'm going to change permission to that directory to 777. So chmod 777 on slash backups. Okay, next is that we're going to now export the above file systems, okay, in the server in slash exports. That's exports configuration file to determine local physical file systems that are accessible to NFS client. So I'm going to copy this command, copy this. I'm exporting the home directory of NFS user 1 and the permission is read and write and sync. I'm exporting this to any server that has access to this, any server that is configured to access the NFS server. So that's why I'm putting a wildcard here. In the real world, you don't want to put a wildcard, you want to put the exact server or the exact IP address or the exact network that you want to be able to configure the NFS client on. Okay, so I'm going to copy these 3 lines, and that is what I want to export. So on the NFS server, I want to VI to etc exports. Now, etc exports is an empty file, it doesn't contain anything, but that is where all the exported file systems will be. So using the VI editor, I'm going to VI to etc exports. Okay, I'm going to press I to insert and I will paste those lines. Okay, I'm not sure I copied it. Right click, copy, then go to the NFS server and do right click and paste. So I have copied those 3 lines and that's what I'm exporting. So I'm going to press escape colon WQ exclamation. Okay, so here are some of the export options. We can read the man pages for more information on exports, but RW means read and write, allows both read and write access on the file system. Sync tells the NFS server to write operations information to the disk when requested. This applies by default. All squash maps all UIDs and GIDs from the client request to anonymous user. No all squash is used to map all UIDs and GIDs from the client request to identical UIDs and GIDs on the server side. Then we have root. We have no all squash or root squash. See, root squash maps requests from the root user or GID 0 from the client side to the anonymous GID/UID on the server. Next is to export the above file systems. We have put them in the LC exports, but we have not exported it. So to export it, we run this command export fs-avr. We're doing this on the server. So export fs-avr to tell you all the exported file systems and where it exported to. This one, wildcard means everywhere. Any server can have access to it. So next, to display the current export list, we need to run the following command. Okay, run the following command. Note that the export table also applies some of the default export options that are not explicitly defined as shown in the screenshot. Okay, there's no screenshot. It's not explicitly defined. Okay, So if we run this command export fs-s, export fs-s, that will show us all the exported file systems with their exporting options. Okay, next. To ensure, we need to ensure that AWS security group allows traffic from these ports. NFS uses so many ports, both for the Mount D, LogDs, and the RPC bind and NFS itself. So we're going to allow all these ports from the security group. So if we don't allow all these ports, NFS will not function properly. So we're going to go to the security group of our EC2s and allow port 111, both TCP and UDP, this port, but all these ports, we're going to allow them. So let's click them one by one. I'm going to go to the AWS Management Console, select our instance, go to Security, click on the Security Group. You can see our security group is NFS Security Group. We're going to edit inbound rules. Right now, only one port is allowed, which is port 22. Now we're going to click on Edit Inbound Rules. And we're going to add rule. Add rule. Add rule. I'm going to add custom TCP from port 111 to come from anywhere, and also custom UDP to come from port 111, also to come from everywhere. Next is we're going to allow traffic from port 2049 and 32806. So add rule, custom TCP, we're going to be 2049. It's going to come from everywhere. And also custom UDP from the same port number 2049. And it's going to come from everywhere. We're going to also allow custom TCP from port 32806. 32806. It's going to come from any source. Add rule again, custom UDP from the same port range, port number, and this everywhere. Next, we're going to allow traffic from port 20048, both TCP and UDP. Copy it. We're going to add rule. We're going to say custom TCP and UDP. So custom TCP will come from this port number, and the source is going to be 0.0.0/0, and also add custom UDP from the same port number. Source is going to be 0.0.0/0. We're going to add a couple more rules. Let me add rules. Then we'll define the ports. Okay. So we have added port 20048. We're going to open port 4045 and 4046, both for UDP and TCP. 4045, we're going to go to here. Custom TCP will say 4045. Okay. And again, custom TCP from 4046. And again, custom TCP to come from port 875 from everywhere. Then custom UDP, custom UDP, custom UDP, custom UDP to come from port 4045 from everywhere, and custom UDP from port 4046. If we don't do this, then we're going to get some error messages. And custom UDP from port 875, and it's going to come from everywhere. Next, we will open port. Okay, we've already opened port 2049, both TCP and UDP. So we are done with our security groups. This last one, we don't need it. We're going to delete that. So after that, we click on Save Rules. The reason why we did this is so that we can make sure that all the traffic that are going to be coming from all the traffic that are going to be coming to our NFS server from the NFS client is not blocked. Okay, so we are done setting up the NFS server. Next is to set up the NFS client. Okay, so we're going to run this command show mount-e and the IP address of the NFS server so we can see the outputted exported file systems on the client side. So we're going to take the IP address of the server, go to running instances. I have NFS dash server. Let me see, NFS dash server. Let me filter it. Let's say, okay, so this is the IP address of the NFS server. It's selected. You copy it. Then I'm going to go to the NFS client and run the command. This is the NFS client, and run the command show mount-e. Show mount-e and the IP address of the NFS server. I press enter. Okay, so it is showing me all the exported file systems with where it is exported to. In this case is wildcard. I can also do show mount -- exports exports instead of -e. -e stands for exports, and with the IP address of the NFS server we will see the same thing. Okay, things are getting clearer now. On the NFS server, okay, sorry, on the NFS client, we are going to create a local file system or directory for mounting the remote NFS file systems and mount it as an NFS file system. So in the NFS server, we're going to create a local directory. Sorry, in the NFS client, we're going to create a local directory that we're going to mount the NFS server's exported directories locally on the NFS client. So I'm going to create a directory in the NFS client called backups/backups, and that /backups I will mount it to /backups in the NFS server. So from the NFS client, I'm going to create that directory called backups, mkdir/backups. I'm creating this in the NFS client. Now I'm going to mount this /backups in the NFS server to the NFS client. Now if I do df-ht, you can see that /backups is not mounted. Now I'm going to run the mount command, mount-t. The type of the file system is NFS. Okay, NFS. Then I'm going to put the IP address of the NFS server, which is this, :/backups. This is the directory we exported from the NFS server. Okay, and I'm mounting the directory in /backups in the NFS client. So if I press enter here, that is mounted. If I type df-ht, you see that /backups is mounted, and that's an NFS mount. Again, if I type mount and I pipe and grep-i NFS, you will see that that is mounted. Okay, so next we have mounted /backups in the NFS server to /backups in the NFS client. Okay, then we're going to confirm that the file system has been mounted by running the mount command. Okay, so repeat step 10 above and mount other file systems. So confirm that it has been mounted, we'll run the mount command, we confirmed it. So to mount other file systems, we created NFS user 1 and NFS user 2, and we also exported those users' home directory. So to mount the NFS user 1 home directory on the client side, I want to create the mount point, and I'm going to mount it in /home/get/NFS user 1. So on the client side, I'm going to create this directory mkdir-p/home/get/NFS user 1. Then I'm going to mount this file system, mount-t NFS. I'm mounting the NFS server, which is 34.236.148.237. Okay, I'm mounting the home directory of NFS user 1 /home/NFS user 1, and I'm mounting this to the directory we just created. I'm mounting it to /home/guest/NFS user 1, and I'm going to mount the same home directory of NFS user 2 by creating the directory where we're going to mount it. So I'm going to create NFS/home/NFS/home/guest/NFS user 2 directory, and I'm going to run this command to mount it. I'm going to just copy this, right click, and I'm going to change to NFS user 2 here, and also to NFS user 2, and I press enter. So I have mounted NFS user 1 and NFS user 2, mounted them on this client side /home/get/NFS user 1 /home/get/NFS user 2. So if I run the mount command to verify our mount, I want to pipe and grep-i NFS, you will see that NFS is mounted in /backups. Okay, that is that one, and mounted in /home/NFS user 2, mounted in /home/guest/NFS user 1, as you can see. So if I run the command df-ht, we'll see all our mounted NFS file systems /backups /home/guest/NFS user 1 /home/guest/NFS user 2. Okay, so we have completed the mounting. Now it is time for us to this mount that we did is not persistent. In other words, if we reboot the system, the mount point will go away. So to enable the mount to persist even after the system reboot, we need to run the following command to make the entry into the file system table. And if you're going to be taking Red Hat Certified System Administrator exam, your configuration should survive reboot. So when you mount your NFS shares, make sure you mount it and edit the file system table to put in your configurations. If not, when the system reboots, your mount point will go away and you're not going to be able to access those shared directories. Okay, so to make it persistent, I'm going to run this command, all these 3 lines to put it in the FS tab. So I'm running this command in the um, NFS client. So echo an IP address of the NFS server. That's what I'm going to put here. And the IP address of the NFS server is, let me get it from here. IP address of the NFS server. This is the IP address of the NFS server. So, and I'm going to right click here. So echo I'm going to do this, echo this and put it in the HCFS tab. That is one way to do this. Or I can simply veer into FS tab and put it. Let me do it that way. Let me say VI to HCFS tab. And I'm going to go to the last line and add. So I'll right click. Instead of putting the echo and redirecting it to HCFS tab, I am just going to put the lines without the echo command and without this one. So this is the expected file system, okay, mounted in /backups. That's the mount point. NFS is the file system default 00. So I'm going to do that with the other 3 lines, then I will edit it in the file system table. So this is this is the NFS user 1 home directory. So let me simply go in here. Okay, I'm going to copy, I'm going to do YY and paste the 2 lines. Now I'm going to edit the second line. This one is mounted in, this one is, what we exported here is /home /NFS user 1, and that is mounted in the mount point is /home /guests /NFS user 1. Okay, same thing here. What we exported here is /home /home /NFS user 2, and that is mounted in, you're going to mounted in /home /guests /NFS user 2. Okay, so that looks good. So I'm going to save this file. Now, if you notice, this is already mounted. df-ht is already mounted. So I'm going to unmount them and mount them again so it become persistent. So I'm going to say umount /backups umount, I'm going to unmount /home /guests /NFS user 1, and I'm going to unmount /home /guest /NFS user 2. So if I do df-ht, we can see those NFS mounts are no longer there. But because we have made the entry into the file system table, I can do mount -A to mount all in the FS tab. So after I finish mounting it, then I'm going to run this command systemctl daemon reload to reload it. Okay, now if I do df-ht, we can see our system is, our mount points are back, /backups is mounted, /home /nfs user2 is mounted, but /home /nfs user1 is not mounted. That means there could be a problem in our FS tab. So let us go back to the file system table. Go back to the file system table and take a look at our NFS user1. As IP address mounted in /home /nfs user1 /home /guest. You see the problem here, gets instead of guests. Guests. GUST GSTS /home /guest /NFS NFS user1. That's the problem. So that /home /guest was the wrong, missed the S there. So I'm going to press escape, save the file again. Then I'm going to run the mount command again, mount-A to mount all. Then I'm going to run systemctl daemon-reload to reload the daemon. So if I do df-ht, now we can see /backups is mounted, /home /guest /nfs user1 /home /guest /nfs user2. Okay, so we have done with the mounting. So it's time for us to start testing our shared directories to make sure that we can access those NFS exported file systems from the server side and also from the client side. Okay, so lastly, test if NFS setup is working fine by creating a file on the server and check if the file can be seen on the client. So on the server side, I'm going to create this file called, I'm going to create a file in /backups called created on server.txt. Run this command, copy it, do this on NFS server. So we're going to go to NFS server and create that file. After we finish creating the file, then also on the NFS server, I'm going to create this file in NFS user1 home directory. Copy that. Do this on the NFS server. Lastly, the last file we're going to create on the NFS server will be in NFS user2 home directory. So copy this. We're doing this on the server side, guys. Then on the client side, we will see if we can access it. So we've created these three files in NFS server. So on the NFS client, we're going to verify that the files we created, we can access it. So on the server side, I'm going to run this command ls-l to see if I can access the file I created in /backups. So on the client side, I'm going to clear my screen and I run the command to see. See, we're able to see the file created on the server side from the client side. We're going to do that for this second one as well. See, we see that here. So we're able to see this file created on the server side, on the client side. So on the client side still, let me create a file in /backups called created on client. I'm going to call this created on client. Created on client. Okay. And I'm going to see when I run ls created on client. So let me touch this file. Yeah, touch this file in /backup on the client side. Okay. So when we go to the server side, we will check if we can see that file. So when I do ls-l, this is the server side now. Let's see if we can see the file created on the client. I see created on the client side. Okay, we're getting there. So here on the client side, we can do ls-l /backups created on the server side. Then we're going to see this output, which is what we actually did here. So this is a repeat. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on the client side. Run this command to create a file on the client side, and on the server side we will see the file we created. So on the client side, let's create a file called this. On the NFS client, the file is created, and on the NFS server, we do ls-l to see if we can see that file created on the client side. ls-l, and we can see server created on the client side. So this is how to configure NFS server and NFS client. In the next video, we are going to see how to do auto mounting. As you can see in the NFS client side, we veer into the HCFS tab. Okay, and when we do df-ht, we can see all these mount points. Imagine that in the NFS server, we have 200 file systems we exported. That means we will have 200 mount points like this. That means in the file system table, if we veer into etc fs tab, we will have 200 lines of this. So that is not very good. In the next video, we're going to see AutoFS, how to automatically mount these file systems without entering anything in the file system table, without any persistent mount. That's what we're going to see in the next video. So thank you for watching, and I will see you then.